Our special guest today is Andrew Adams. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Andrew.
So I've been a horror author for primarily about 4 years now. I've done a lot of writing in the past, just not serious things, but I've got a short story collection out called Symposium of the Reaper,
Yeah.
and then a couple other novels as well, Constructing Entropy and Serial Publication.
Okay. So tell me about the books that you've written without giving any of the spoilers.
So the fan favorites, I would say, would be Symposium of the Reaper, the short stories. They are just kind of a mixed bag of dark fiction, horror, whatever kind of genre I felt like writing at the time.
Yeah.
I grew up a big fan of Tales from the Crypt and Goosebumps and things like that. So
That's
that's kind of some of the inspiration.
so it's sort of like a mixed bag of everything.
Yeah, just something for everybody. Some are a little bit more extreme than others, and some are very tame, and just whatever the inspiration was at the time.
Brilliant. So can you tell us about the first horror story that you ever wrote?
The first one I ever wrote, when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a director.
Yeah.
And so I used to write a lot of my own screenplays and film them with friends. But as far as actual this phase of things, the Symposium of the Reaper series, the first story I wrote was called Pavor Nocturnus, and that is the first story of the first volume. And it's that means night terror. So it's walking through a person having a night terror and trapped inside that emotion.
That's good. So you actually wrote a story that you did when you was younger and put it into your first novel.
Yeah, a few of them. A few of them were film ideas I had when I was younger that I converted. Yes. I would love to film them at some point one day down the road when time allows for it. But
That sounds great, especially that you've moved it from being from when you were a child into doing filmmaking, and you've actually taken that and then sort of like changed it into a story that you could actually put in a novel. It's brilliant.
yeah, yeah, I realized that my favorite part of filmmaking was the writing. So
Yeah.
it just kind of seemed natural.
So how do you come up with the dark and eerie settings in your stories?
Oh, that's a good question. The easiest answer would say just pull them out of the mind, but I don't know what that says about me. Uh, um, just inspiration. I think I take a lot of daily inspiration and put it through a dark filter. I guess that would be the easiest way.
Yeah.
Situations that shouldn't necessarily be scary, and then we just make them scary. Have fun. That's
Go
uh,
on, give us an example.
okay. Number the fourth story from my first collection is called Holy Matrimony, and it's about a husband and wife who decide to try to kill each other on the same night. And it's a bit humorous, but I found out that actually happened in real life after I wrote it. So I
Yeah.
guess it's not that far fetched.
No, probably isn't. To be fair, I could kill my husband sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. Only the married people know that one.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you find challenging when you're writing horror?
I guess inherently it's not a challenge on its own. However, I challenge myself quite a bit. I'm definitely my own worst critic, and I'm always trying to one up myself. So that would be my personal challenge.
Yeah.
Every time I write something, it's like this desire to do better and to push my boundaries, which is good. That way it keeps it from getting stale. As far as writing itself, I don't know. I have a lot of fun with it. So it's not a huge challenge. Occasionally I have a bad day like anybody else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's always goes downhill when you have a bad day, doesn't it? You can't really get much done. Well, I
yeah.
can't.
Well, I've learned in that case to just not force it, not do anything, and just kind of pick up the next day. Don't beat yourself up over it, from a writing perspective, at least.
Yeah. Do you ever scare yourself with anything you write?
Not necessarily while I'm writing, but I do give myself occasional nightmares. Yeah. I tend to write right before I go to bed. That's my favorite time to write. So occasionally I have nightmares inside the story that I'm writing. So
Really?
unfortunately.
So have you ever written something that you've thought, I've gone a bit too far here on?
Yes. Yeah. One of my short stories in the collection is called Enthrallment Syndrome. And I bumped up the age of they were 12 years old at first. And I went, that seems a little too young.
Yeah.
And I was having them murder each other. So, and I went, oh, no. Let's not do that there. So otherwise, I'm not an extreme horror author necessarily, but occasionally you try to challenge yourself, like I said, and you kind of touch the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm always conscious of it.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular that you wouldn't write about?
Like I mentioned before, I try not to do violence with children. I don't do anything graphically sexual or animal torture, anything like that. I guess kind of the common things, but if people write about it, that's up to them, but I'm not really, that's not my style, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got their own different styles, isn't it? I think the one consensus across the horror community is that you don't kill the dog. Everything else is okay, but you just don't kill the dog.
Yeah. And that's, some people do. And hey, there's boundaries to be pushed. I get it, but I'd rather not myself. I guess it's just the easiest way.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so how has the horror genre evolved over the years, in your opinion?
From a film perspective, not well. I used to keep up with a lot of horror films, more so than now, and it's just not a lot out there to offer. And that's not to say that's a blanket statement, but any modern horror movies just don't seem to have the charm that they used to. As far as literature goes and novels, I think we're probably at one of the best times we've ever been. There's, with the independent movement, which I suppose I'm a part of, you have a lot of talent out there that it's just constant novels and books to read. I'm sure you know.
Yeah. There's a lot out there, isn't there, of all different subgenres, all different types, going from one spectrum to the other. So there is a lot of choice for readers nowadays.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's great for everybody. It's great for the readers and the authors that we have peers to kind of talk to and help each other through.
Yeah.
Instead of being competitive with one another.
So which authors have influenced you the most?
Historically, I grew up a big fan of stuff like Hunter S. Thompson, and not necessarily horror, but just kind of bizarre and transgressive type of writing, and Cormac McCarthy and things like that. As far as horror goes, I was always more of like a Clive Barker reader than a Stephen King reader necessarily.
Yeah.
Really the classics. I grew up reading Dracula and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, stuff like that. So H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, I mean, Dracula and Frankenstein were very good, weren't they, as a starting point, especially when you're getting into horror. They're I think they're fantastic books, and they still are, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so have you got any memorable reactions from your readers?
Yeah, the response has been great. Honestly, it's everything's been independent, so it's slow building, but people have been very supportive, and a lot of people have helped me out tremendously, just as far as promotion and um, just spreading the word and really advocating for me on my behalf, because it's not my favorite part of this whole thing. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with that self promotion.
Yeah, it is the hardest, isn't it? You can write a book quite well, I wouldn't say quite easily, but you can write a book. But the next stage, marketing, it's quite hard, especially to get noticed.
Yeah, it really is. That's the toughest part, at least for myself. So yeah, the community's been fantastic, and even people like yourself having me on your show. I mean, that's it. It goes a long way. So I'm very grateful.
No, you're very welcome. And this is why I started my podcast in the first place, because I was marketing my own books, and I just thought that I would offer. How do I explain it? Invite some other authors if they would like to come on and talk about their sales and their books, and it kind of spiraled from there. So I hope that the podcast does help a lot of the authors getting out there and being noticed a little bit more. And I think the horror community in a whole is a very understanding and very lovely place. So they're the friendliest bunch of people I've ever met. So I don't know whether you've got the same sort of opinion, but they seem to be there to help you when you're down as well.
Yes, agreed. And you would think that people who enjoy such horrific things might not be so friendly, but they definitely are. They definitely are.
So have you got any upcoming projects or releases that you're excited about?
Yeah, we're always going to be moving forward quickly here. I've got a novel that's finished called Infernal Moon. Currently in the final stages of that and looking for publishing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm working on another novel that maybe the biggest one so far, but that's about halfway done at the moment. So
yeah,
I'm really excited for both of those, especially Infernal Moon, just to get that out there and get it in people's hands. It's always exciting.
Yeah. Will you be going down the self-publishing route, or will you try traditional?
Not entirely sure on this one. So far, I've self-published everything, which has its merits for sure. But I think I at least owe it to myself and the book to try a traditional publishing route first.
Yeah.
Not that self-publishing is a failure. It's not that. It's just that it's you just the audience that you can reach is a little bit better traditionally.
Yeah.
So
I suppose you just want to give that one go.
Yeah, definitely. It's worth the effort and the time put in to try to find a publisher, because it's like I said before, there's a lot of good talent out there, a lot of fantastic writers, but there's so many. It's it's hard to find your place without a little bit of help. So yeah, we'll see what comes of it.
Okay, so what advice would you give to aspiring horror writers?
I think the number one thing is be unique. Try to find your own path that you like to write about. I guess that goes for anything, but just find what you like to write about, and not necessarily what's more popular than others, or not what's going to get you noticed. I think people tend to gravitate towards honesty when you're writing. Yeah, I think it comes through a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about with Dracula, if I wrote a Dracula novel now, it's like, all right, well, we've read that before. So
yeah.
And second thing is, I would say, just sounds easy, but just do it. A lot of people, I think, maybe get a little bit too wrapped up in the details and how difficult the whole process is, but you have to just do it. That's really it. You can't do anything without a finished product. So
Yeah, I know you say it's the simplest advice to give, just do it, but it is the only advice, isn't it, really? Just do it. Just try and find the motivation to just do it.
yeah, it really is. And it's, even 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, lunch breaks, whatever you can squeeze in, it's really is better than nothing. And it does add up.
It does. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been absolutely fantastic having you here.
Yeah,
I
thank
hope
you.
the new releases go as well as you hope they do, and you find that publisher that will take your book on. I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just a sincere thank you to everybody in the community. Like I said before, it really has been great. And I'm very gracious to have been accepted the way that I was. So that's always a good thing.
It is. It really is. Like I
Yeah.
said, the community is brilliant.
Yeah. Between the reviewers and authors and podcasters and everybody that makes a part of the horror community, it's been great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time.